What happens when a CEO pretends to be a stranded driver and the only one who stops to help is a security guard who doesn't even know he's being tested? Nathan Varelli sat in his car, parked awkwardly on the edge of the parking lot at store number 4. Hood popped, hazards blinking, sweat building under a dusty baseball cap. He looked nothing like the man who owned all 7 of the high-end electronics stores scattered across the state. With a gray hoodie, fake stubble, and an out-of-state license plate, he was just another stranded guy in a beat-up sedan. Not one employee had come out so far. It had been 35 minutes. He'd bought the chain 6 years ago from a retiring couple. Since then, he'd grown it from 3 stores to 7, but lately something wasn't adding up. Good employees were quitting without warning, customer complaints were stacking up, and not the usual ones real issues: rudeness, long waits. One even said they were ignored after asking for help while their child cried in the aisle. Nathan didn't want another filtered report. He'd heard enough from district managers trying to soften the blow. He needed to see it himself, so he'd been visiting stores one by one, undercover. Not as a trainee, this time he'd already done that at store 3. Now he was showing up as a customer in need. A gust of wind shoved a candy wrapper across the lot. Still nothing. He checked his phone, pretending to fiddle under the hood. The sun was starting to dip. He wasn't sure how much longer he should wait before switching tactics. Then the glass door opened. A security guard stepped out, hands in his vest pockets, looking around. He was tall, maybe mid-40s, with a thick build and a slow, steady walk. He glanced Nathan's way, paused, and then started walking over. "Hey, everything all right with your car?" the guard asked. Nathan straightened up. "Nah, won't start. Think the battery's dead. I was hoping to find someone with cables." The man nodded. "I got a set in the booth." "Gimme a sec." Nathan watched him jog back, surprised. Most guards wouldn't bother, and he hadn't waved anyone down. A few minutes later, the man returned holding jumper cables and a jug of water. "Could be your battery. Or maybe it overheated," he said, popping open the jug cap. Nathan blinked. "You didn't have to bring water. Rather be safe. I've been stuck before. Ain't fun." He hooked up the cables, then motioned toward his security van. "Pop the key in. Try it now." The engine coughed, then hummed to life. Nathan got out and shut the hood. That was fast. "Thanks, man. No problem." The guard wiped his hands on a rag from his pocket. "Name's Jerome, by the way. I just started guarding this store about 2 months back. Used to be at store 2, but they shuffled me here." Nathan offered a hand. "I'm Nate. Appreciate it, Jerome." Jerome smiled. "You're good now." "Yeah, I owe you one." "You don't owe me anything," Jerome shrugged. "Just do the same for somebody else." Nathan chuckled, but inside he felt something shift. That was genuine. No cameras, no manager nearby, no reason to help, just someone doing the right thing. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said. "Sure." "How's it working here?" Jerome scratched his chin. "It's all right. Not the best staff, if I'm honest. They keep to themselves. I've seen customers walk in and walk out without anyone saying a word. Managers barely around." "I mean, I just watch the lot, but still. You notice things." Nathan nodded. "Thanks, that's helpful." Jerome tilted his head. "You asking for a reason?" Nathan smiled. "Just curious, thinking about applying." Jerome gave a soft laugh. "Well, if you do, just keep your head down. And don't expect anyone to show you the ropes. They barely trained the last guy." They shook hands again, and Nathan drove off slowly, looping around the back and parking in a side lot. He slipped inside the store unnoticed. The inside was worse than he expected. 3 employees stood behind the counter, all on their phones. A woman in the speaker aisle looked around helplessly, holding a product box. Nobody helped her. Nathan walked past without being seen, then spotted something that made his stomach twist: a cardboard sign near the break room. "No ID, no service. We don't chase thieves." He walked back out the front. Tomorrow, he'd come in as a temporary floor tech. He already had the name tags printed. None of these people had ever met him. He rarely visited the stores in person. That was on him. But that was about to change. First thing tomorrow, he'd meet the staff. And this time, no one would know who he really was. Nathan pushed open the back door of the electronics store just past 8 in the morning. He wore worn jeans, steel-toed boots, and a gray maintenance shirt with the name Kyle stitched on the chest. His ID badge hung from a lanyard temporary hire, facility tech support. The staffing agency had set it up under a different LLC. He operated quietly for moments like this. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of old coffee and ammonia. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A woman walked past holding a clipboard, barely glancing at him. At the end of the hallway, he found the break room. A microwave hummed. 2 employees sat at the table eating breakfast sandwiches. One leaned back in his chair, scrolling his phone. The other, a woman in her mid-20s with earbuds in, sipped an energy drink and tapped her foot against the leg of the table. Nathan stepped inside. "Hey, I'm Kyle. I'm here on temp facilities." The guy barely looked up. "Cool. Tools are in the mop closet. Just don't touch the router. It goes down if you breathe on it wrong." The woman didn't acknowledge him. Nathan gave a short nod and left the room. He didn't need tools yet. He needed to see the floor. He walked out to the main store and paused near the televisions. It was still early, but 2 customers were already browsing. A young couple stood near the smart displays, clearly looking for help. One of the clerks leaned on the counter 20 feet away, flipping through a store flyer. He didn't move. Nathan walked toward the couple, keeping his eyes on the interaction or lack of one. The woman pointed at a model and looked around. "Excuse me," she said loudly. "Can someone help us?" No response. She tried again, louder. The clerk looked up for a second, then went back to the flyer. Nathan turned away and made a slow loop around the store. He passed through the mobile phone section, where another employee leaned against a display with her arms crossed. The shelves behind her were half-stocked. Several of the demo phones were powered off. She caught him looking and frowned. "Something you need?" she asked. He shook his head. "Just checking for trash behind the units." She raised an eyebrow. "Whatever." He walked on. By mid-morning, Nathan had seen enough to be concerned. The store was understaffed, but even the ones on duty barely engaged. Customer eyes wandered, looking for help that rarely came. A few left without buying anything. At 11, he stepped outside and circled the building. Jerome was in the security booth, chewing sunflower seeds and watching the lot. He spotted Nathan and waved him over. "Didn't know they had you starting today," Jerome said as he stepped out of the booth. "Yeah, just for a few weeks," Nathan replied. "Place always this quiet in the mornings," Jerome chuckled. "Inside? Yeah, out here I stop more carts than people. Don't get me wrong, weekends pick up, but it's the kind of quiet that makes you think something's broken." Nathan leaned on the fence. "You talk to the manager much?" "Only when there's a theft report. She's not around much. Office lights off half the time, and when it's on, the door's locked." "Who's actually running things?" Jerome spat out a seed. "That'd be Chris, floor lead. Tall guy, buzz cut, always wears the same red hoodie under his vest. Acts like he owns the place, but I've never seen him lift a box or greet a customer." Nathan nodded. "You like him?" Jerome hesitated. "I stay out of it, but I've seen him talk down to the younger staff. One time he told a new kid to figure out the register on his own and walked away. Kid looked like he wanted to disappear. Think it's a training issue or an attitude one?" Jerome shrugged. "Could be both. I'm just here to keep the parking lot from turning into a mess." "But you start seeing patterns. I've been on this kind of detail almost 20 years. Good stores have energy. This one, it drags." Nathan thanked him and walked back in. Near the speaker wall, a woman in a company polo stood with her arms crossed, watching a younger employee try to lift a boxed subwoofer onto a cart. The box wobbled. The woman didn't move. "Careful," she called lazily, not looking up from her clipboard. The young worker managed to steady the load and roll it off. Nathan approached. "You the supervisor?" The woman looked at him, mildly irritated. "I'm the shift lead. Who are you?" "Facilities temp, Kyle." "Then why are you over here?" "Looking for a loose ceiling tile I was told about." "Might be above the speaker aisle." She didn't respond. Nathan kept walking. He found the swinging doors near the back and moved into the stockroom. Boxes were stacked unevenly along the wall. A dolly leaned against a roll of shrink wrap. 2 teens were unpacking phone cases, both wearing earbuds. They didn't notice him. He spotted a small desk with a clipboard labeled "Delivery Sign Here." No one was manning it. He moved down the row and found a young man sorting memory cards into bins. The kid looked up and nodded politely. "You working back here full-time?" Nathan asked. "Yeah." "I'm Alex. I do stock and inventory. How long you been here?" Almost a year. You like it? Alex hesitated. I like the work. I don't like feeling invisible. Nathan crouched to look at the alignment of the shelf. What do you mean? I've asked to cross-train front side 4 times. No response. I fix half the mispriced tags myself. I've covered for people who don't show up. I even caught a barcode mismatch last week that saved the company probably a few grand. Chris told me not to waste time on that kind of stuff. Nathan stood. You ever talk to corporate about it? Alex laughed softly. They don't know I exist. Nathan clapped his shoulder gently and moved on. By 2, he was back on the floor, pretending to clean scuff marks near the checkout lanes. The store had picked up slightly. A woman in her 50s rang up a customer while another clerk stared at the wall, arms crossed. Nathan noticed a man in slacks and a company badge stepping out of the office near the back. He moved quickly, eyes narrowed, holding a stack of papers. He approached the floor lead the one in the red hoodie. They spoke in low voices. Nathan edged closer. You said the shipment would be ready, the man said tightly. I didn't get the head count I needed, the lead replied. Talk to scheduling. I did. They said you cut the hours. Yeah, because they were wasting time. I'm not paying 6 people to stand around. The man clenched the papers tighter. Corporate's coming next week. This place doesn't look ready, the lead shrugged. Then delay the visit. Nathan turned away, stomach tight. He ducked into the break room and sat at the end of the table, pulling out a fake work order to disguise his thoughts. The problem wasn't just neglect, it was active sabotage. People like Alex were trying, but they were trapped under people like Chris who acted with impunity, and the manager. Silent, absent, complicit by inaction, Nathan stood and walked toward the exit. He passed Jerome on the way out. Find that ceiling tile, Jerome asked. Not yet, Nathan replied, but I found something more important. Jerome gave him a puzzled look, but Nathan didn't stop. He had seen what he needed to see. Tomorrow, he wouldn't be a temp anymore. Tomorrow, they would find out who he really was. Nathan stepped through the front doors just after noon the next day. This time, no hoodie, no name tag. He wore a tailored black jacket, open collar shirt, and a look that made people step aside before they even realized why. The shift lead behind the counter stared for a second, as if trying to place him, then quickly looked away. He walked straight through the store without acknowledging anyone, heading toward the office corridor. The door at the end, management, authorized only, was locked. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again, firmer. After a few seconds, the door opened a crack and a woman in a blazer peeked out, eyes narrowing. Can I help you? He didn't raise his voice. You're the store manager. Yes, who? I'm Nathan Varelli. I own this company. Her mouth parted slightly, but she froze. You'll want to step out, he said. We're doing this now. She opened the door fully, moving aside as if she wasn't entirely sure her legs would carry her. Nathan entered the small office and turned to face her. You haven't responded to my last 3 performance check-ins. Your quarterly call-in rate is the worst in the region. I've had 2 vendor complaints routed to my personal inbox. And yesterday, I spent 6 hours working in your store under a temp badge. She swallowed. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's the problem. He stepped closer. You're dismissed from this position, effective immediately. You're not being fired. Yet. But you're done leading this store. I'll be bringing in an interim manager to clean this up. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Can I ask why I wasn't contacted directly instead of you were? You didn't answer. He motioned toward the hallway. You can pack your personal items. I'll have HR follow up this afternoon. She walked out without another word. Nathan waited a beat, then stepped back into the hallway. He didn't raise his voice. Chris. The floor lead turned from a display he'd been half-heartedly rearranging. His expression shifted the second he saw Nathan's face. You're the owner. Yes, come with me. They walked past the speaker aisle, around the clearance zone, and into the break room. One employee stood by the coffee machine. Nathan waited until he left before closing the door. You've been acting as de facto manager, Chris gave a tight nod. I've been covering gaps, yeah. This place runs short. Nathan remained by the door. I watched you ignore customers. I watched you instruct staff to skip over safety checks in the receiving dock. I heard you tell a team member not to waste time fixing pricing errors. I heard you tell corporate to delay a site visit. Chris opened his mouth, but Nathan raised a hand. Don't explain. I'm not interested in excuses. The way you operate is corrosive. People here are either scared of you or they've given up caring about what goes on around them. That's not leadership, that's rot. Chris shifted his weight. So what happens now? You're being placed on unpaid leave pending a formal review. You'll be contacted by HR. If I find any indication that you've manipulated time cards or falsified inventory reports, this won't just end with a termination. Chris's jaw tightened. You're coming in here like you know everything that happens. I do now. You had your chance to run this place right. You didn't. Nathan opened the door and stepped aside. You're done here. Chris walked past him without another word. Nathan didn't pause. He moved straight to the floor and walked toward the service desk where two clerks were whispering. They fell silent as he approached. You two, what are your names? The first one, a woman maybe in her early 30s, spoke first. I'm Keisha. The second, a younger man with a nervous posture, said, Darren. You're both on shift until close, they nodded. Good. I'm bringing in a new operations manager tomorrow. Until then, I need eyes from the ground. You're going to walk me through what's broken here, not what looks bad to customers, what actually doesn't work. Keisha exchanged a glance with Darren. Everything. Start with the register systems, then we're walking the floor. For the next hour, Nathan followed them through the store. He didn't interrupt. He took notes on his phone, typing quickly, occasionally stopping to take a photo. They showed him a printer that jammed every fourth receipt. A scanner that only worked if you twisted the cable into place. A drawer full of expired gift cards no one bothered to remove. A locked cabinet that hadn't been opened in weeks because the key was missing and no one wanted to admit it. Then they reached the mobile department. The employee standing behind the counter stiffened when she saw Nathan. She didn't say anything. Keisha leaned in. That's Marissa. She's been covering phones alone for almost 3 weeks. Nathan stepped forward. You've been handling this section solo. Marissa nodded slowly. Everyone else either left or got pulled to cover front registers. It's been like this since mid-month. Has anyone offered assistance? She gave a short laugh, then caught herself. No, Nathan turned to Keisha. Thank you, that's enough for now. I'll take it from here. As they walked away, he motioned to Marissa. Walk with me. They moved toward the back, past the networking shelves. Nathan stopped by the routers and turned to face her. You've been ignored, that much is clear, but I need to know why'd you stay. She hesitated. I applied for a leadership training program last year. I didn't get it, but I figured if I stuck around and showed I could handle pressure, maybe someone would notice. Has anyone so far? No. Nathan looked her in the eye. You have today. I want you to start mentoring with the incoming manager. You'll get training, support, and evaluation for a leadership track. If you're interested, she blinked. Seriously, you're already doing the work. Might as well get the title and pay to match, her voice caught. Thank you. He gave a slight nod and walked toward the stockroom. Inside, the air was cooler, quieter. He found Alex at the same station as yesterday, sorting a new shipment of power banks. Nathan waited until he looked up. You've been handling back-end logistics, yes, Alex nodded, unsure. You're moving to inventory coordinator, effective now. Full-time benefits and system permissions to correct mismatches. I want you reporting directly to the new manager, but you'll run your own section. Alex stared at him. Why me? You've been correcting mistakes without being asked. That's what this place needs. People who see the cracks and do something, not look away. Alex's voice was steady. I can do that. I know. Nathan left him and walked out through the loading bay. Just outside, Jerome sat on the edge of the booth, sipping from a thermos. He stood when he saw Nathan. You're not pretending anymore, he said. No, Jerome offered a slow nod. Didn't figure you for the type to let things slide. I won't. Nathan pulled a folded paper from his jacket. This is a transfer form. I'm assigning you to site security operations for the whole region. You'll train incoming guards at every location. Weekly rotation, mileage included, plus a raise. Jerome raised his eyebrows. Why me? Because you walked toward a problem when everyone else stayed inside. Jerome took the paper, silent for a beat. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. That's exactly why you did. They stood quietly as a delivery truck backed into the bay. Nathan exhaled slowly. Tomorrow we start cleaning this up for real. No more silence, no more shortcuts, just work that matters. Jerome nodded once. Then I'll see you tomorrow. Nathan turned and headed back into the store. There was still a long road ahead. But for the first time in months, he knew exactly where to start. 2 weeks later, the store didn't look fixed, but it looked different. Nathan stood near the refurbished demo wall, watching two employees rewire the media console as a group of customers browsed nearby. The store still had gaps. The lighting was too dim in some aisles, and the mobile section was still short-handed. But people were moving with intent now. There was rhythm, not just noise. He turned as a woman approached from the back office. She was in her early 40s, sharp eyes and calm posture, clipboard tucked under one arm. Her name was Dana, and she'd been flown in from the flagship location to serve as interim manager. "Got your update," Nathan said as she stepped beside him. "We've stabilized, barely. I've got 3 people cross-training, but I'm running out of lead bandwidth. I need a dedicated front-end supervisor by next month or we'll stall." "Use Alex," Nathan said. "He's already correcting misroutes we didn't even know were misrouted," she nodded. "He's detail-oriented." "I'll connect him with our systems analyst." Nathan glanced toward the checkout. "How's Darren adjusting?" "Faster than I expected. He's better under pressure than he is in a quiet room." "I think he just needed someone to look straight at him and say, 'You're responsible now.'" Nathan didn't answer right away. He was watching Marissa explaining a pricing bundle to a customer who just walked in. She gestured to the signage, then walked the customer to the correct aisle. She didn't see him watching. Dana followed his gaze. "She's running the department unofficially. I'd like to make it official." "Do it," Nathan said, "but make sure she has someone under her. Don't build another person we rely on too heavily without backup." "You're learning," Dana said, a faint smile in her voice. "I'm remembering," Nathan replied. He stepped away and headed toward the stockroom. It was quieter now. Boxes were still stacked, but the overflow had been broken down properly, and the dolly wasn't left leaning against the wall anymore. He found Alex at a desk, typing inventory notes into a tablet. Nathan waited until he finished the entry. "You've had access to back-end systems for how many days now?" "5, Alex said. "I haven't broken anything yet." "Noticed," Nathan said. "You flagged 2 vendor errors before our audit team caught them. That's not luck." Alex looked up. "I've been doing this in my head for months. Now I can actually correct what I see. Dana wants you front-end cross-trained, floor mapping too. You ready for that?" "I don't know it all," Alex said, "but I want to know it." "That's enough." Nathan left him there and made his way out through the back doors. The sun was high, and the asphalt shimmered faintly. The security booth was empty. He walked across the lot and found Jerome standing near the loading dock, clipboard in hand, talking to a younger guard in training. Nathan waited until the trainee nodded and walked off toward the delivery zone. "You're building a team," Nathan said. Jerome lifted his head. "Trying to. This one actually listens, doesn't chew gum while I'm explaining protocols." "You've got the whole district now. You still want it." Jerome looked out over the lot. "It's a lot, but it's honest. And I get to fix things before they break. That's the part I like." Nathan leaned against the railing. "You weren't supposed to be the one who saw everything. That's my job. I just forgot how to do it." Jerome shook his head. "You didn't forget. You just stopped looking close enough. Happens to anyone who builds something big." Nathan crossed his arms. "You think this place can actually turn around?" Jerome didn't answer right away. He watched the new guard check a delivery form, then wave the driver through. "It's not about turning around," he said finally. "It's about deciding what kind of place you want it to be, then making sure the people here are allowed to care again." Nathan nodded once, then pushed off the railing and walked back inside. In the hallway, he passed a maintenance tech replacing a ceiling tile. The guy looked up, startled. "You're the I'm just making the rounds," Nathan said. "You need anything?" "No, sir, just finishing the work order from last week." Nathan kept walking. In the break room, Keisha was updating the whiteboard schedule. She saw him and stepped back. "I got approval to stagger closing shifts next month," she said. "That way no one gets stuck here past 10 more than twice a week." "Good," Nathan said. "You talked to Dana about your hours." "Yeah. She added me to the rotation that builds the training modules. Said I might be good at it." "You are," Nathan said. "You just didn't have anyone watching before." Keisha gave a short nod and went back to the board. Nathan stepped out onto the floor once more. The store was alive, not perfect. The aisles weren't spotless. The register lines still slowed during peak hours, but the customers weren't walking out empty-handed. Staff weren't hiding behind counters, and no one stood around waiting for someone else to care first. He didn't need to stay longer. The course correction had begun, and now it was up to the people inside to keep it moving. At the front of the store, a man in his 60s was asking about sound bars. Marissa stepped in, explaining the differences clearly, pointing to the specs with confidence that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. Nathan passed by without interrupting. Outside, he walked across the lot to where his car was parked. The same sedan, still dusty from that first day, still with the out-of-state plates. He reached into the glove box and pulled out the jumper cables Jerome had used. He coiled them slowly, then placed them neatly into the trunk. He wasn't planning on needing them again, not here.